So, welcome to this webinar. I'm really delighted to be here and excited to talk about Sirius Web and provide you with a product tour. So, I'm Mélanie, the CTO at Obeo, and as the head of the product team, I'm responsible for managing the strategy and development of the various Obeo projects. The agenda for this webinar is as follows. First, we'll discuss what is Sirius Web. Then I will present it from the user's perspective. And finally, we will explore the key features and functionalities from the viewpoint of the studio maker. So let's begin by exploring what Sirius Web is. Sirius Web is an open source project hosted by the Eclipse Foundation. As you see, you can find it directly on GitHub under the Eclipse Sirius organization. It exists as Sirius Components project, and this is Sirius Web. The purpose of Sirius Web is to simplify the development of domain-specific graphical tools. It inherits the principles and capabilities of the well-established technology Eclipse Sirius Desktop, but focuses on enabling the creation of domain-specific studios for the cloud stack. Sirius Web is a highly active open source project with a new release being made available every 8 weeks. It is built upon a classical web stack utilizing Spring, React, and JavaScript. Sirius Web offers a ready-to-use application and reusable components that can be integrated into existing applications or cloud-based IDEs such as VS Code or Thea. In addition to the Sirius Web open source project, we provide the Obeo Cloud Platform and the Obeo Studio product for creating collaborative graphical modeling solutions accessible through a web browser. Obeo Studio is developed as an open core product based on Sirius Web. It encompasses enterprise-grade features and can be deployed on public, private clouds, or even on-premise environments with support and upgrade guarantees included. Sirius Web is the successor of Sirius Desktop project, so it inherits the same philosophy. It serves as an open source platform for defining modeling environments tailored to specific business concerns. With Sirius, you have the ability to define the concepts of your domain and create customized tooling. It offers a local platform for building custom web or desktop applications that support specific visual languages. Sirius Web offers a modeling workbench that facilitates the development of model-based applications. Within Sirius Web, there are 2 distinct user roles, each responsible for working on specific aspects of the application. The first one is the studio makers. Studio makers will use Sirius Web to define all the concepts of their business and the graphical tooling to manipulate them. They work at a meta level where they describe the business concepts in a domain and the descriptions of the representations in a view. On the other hand, the end users will use those concepts to capture some business knowledge and manipulate those pieces of data using some dedicated tooling. The end users will manipulate instances of those concepts thanks to the representations. So, Sirius Web can thus be described with 4 major parts. The semantic data manipulated by the end users are thus described by the domains, while the graphical representations are described by the views. Since the representations are tailor-made for the business of the users, they are configured by the concepts defined in the domains. End users can thus manipulate their data with the representations. So let's clarify all this and let's now proceed with the Sirius Web from the perspective of the end users. When an end user works with an application based on Sirius Web, he will notice the following aspects. First, easy access. The application does not require any installation, allowing users to access it seamlessly. With just a single click, they can open an editor and begin working. Second, they will notice the modern application. The user interface and user experience are designed for the web, providing a contemporary and intuitive interface. The application is tailored to meet the specific needs of the user. Third, they will notice that Sirius Web is customized for specific needs. The application they use is dedicated to addressing the user's requirements, so it allows them to work with their own business language, enabling a more efficient and personalized experience. So, the initial page that users arrive on when they use a Sirius Web-based application is the project browser. This page serves as the central hub for managing projects. Here, users have the following capabilities. They can create a new project based on predefined templates, providing a starting point of their work. Second, they will be able to upload an existing project, allowing them to continue working on it within this environment. And third, they will be able to manage projects, so they have the ability to rename projects, delete them, the non-project files, and share projects with others. The project browser provides users with a convenient and centralized location to manage the project effectively. So I will demonstrate that. So here is the first page you have when you start with Sirius Web. You go to your Sirius Web application in your browser and you finish on this page. You see that you have different kinds of templates dedicated to each specific domain. So here is the first one. It creates a basic model for me. Another one I can create. And directly I can start working on my domain. I can start working on what's important for me. So here I can create new processors. And in the same page, you see that I have all my projects that I created or that are created by other people working on the same server. I'm able to manage a project, delete some. I can rename my new project I just created with you. And I can also download the content of a project. And this will be just a zip file. And if I open this zip file, what I will see is that inside this zip, I have just JSON files, some for representing the data. So you can see here my composite processor and my processors I created in my graphical modeler. And on the other side, you have the representations, description. So here is that the fact that I created a diagram, and this is exactly the definition of my diagram, but in a JSON format. So in Sirius Web, a project serves as a means to group models together. However, it is not possible to create sub-projects within a project. Instead, all models exist at the same level within a project. The project acts as a container for organizing and managing the models, providing a cohesive structure for the users to work with. When the user opens the project, you see that he encounters a project editor, which consists of 3 panels. First, on the left, the global views. This panel provides a collection of global views that offer a high-level overview of the project. It includes features such as an explorer representing the project structure view, creation, and navigation tools. In the center, we have the editors. The central panel of the project editor is dedicated to displaying and editing the content of the selected model. This is where users can perform detailed editing, make modifications, and interact with specific elements. On the right side, we find the views related to the current selection. So the right panel presents views that are contextually related to the currently selected element. It offers additional information, details, or related views that provide a deeper understanding or facilitate navigation based on the selected element. The 3 panels of the project editor and Sirius Web work together to provide users with comprehensive project management, editing, and contextual information capabilities. First, we will focus on the left panel, the global views. In the left panel, you can choose between 2 views. The Project Explorer with all the models in this project. This is the one open by default. and the validation view with all the model's diagnostics. So the validation view shows diagnostics of the whole project. Diagnostics are sorted by kind and can be either hidden or displayed thanks to a kind of recording widget. And to switch between the two, you can click on the corresponding icon in the left icon bar, and you can also hide or collapse the currently open view by clicking on its icon to make more room for the central representation area. And simply click again and the icon on the icon to reveal the view. So what it looks like in the application. Here I am on my project browser, and you see that I have my different panels. This is the first one, the global views. I can open from here an editor, and on the right side, I have my details views, which is based on the selection. On the left, I have these two icons, which help me to switch between the validation view and the Explorer view. And for the validation, you see that you see all the diagnostic. And now I'm able to go through my Explorer. I have some different menus, depending on the type of the element. I have different menus also to create a new model, upload a new model, and I can collapse the view to get some more place for the diagrams. We add also some more features on the Explorer view to help to find the different elements. So we have some kind of filter and search capabilities. So I will just show you those capabilities. For the first one is the capability to filter the model. So here I have my Explorer with all my models, and I can select an element. And when I type Ctrl+F, I can start filter on my elements. It highlights the elements which correspond to my string, and then I can filter to see only those elements that contains what I was looking for. On this global view also, we start thinking about providing a search view. So this one is an experimental one. You have a quick search available at the bottom of the application. You can start typing something. So here man, and it will look for all the possibilities in the model. And you have a more advanced search view, which is a global view also. And we can start searching for a string. We have some capabilities to activate or not if we search in attributes, if we want to group the results by models, by types, and so on. So if I'm doing the same, but on a bigger example, here I'm looking for the man string. I can filter, go to my main view, search for a letter A, for example, or the true value. I can search for, or I can activate the search for all the attributes also, or not. You see that I have lots of results, and we shows all the results thanks to a tree. And you see how many results there is on under this kind of elements. We can search another letter A, for example. You see that there is lots of patterns that match. And you see also that we are not showing all the results at the time. You can, by your hand, go further, deeper on the branch if you think that this is what you are looking for. On the second panel you have on the project editor is the center panel. This is a project editor panel, which is which is the main panel of the project editor. It contains the representation editor. The representation editor is responsible for displaying various visual representations, such as diagrams, forms, or other graphical elements associated with the selected model or resource you have. So it provides a dedicated workspace where users can interact with and modify the visual representation of the project. The representation editor plays as crucial role in enabling users to work with and manipulate the graphical aspects of their models. It exists different types of representations. The first type I will demonstrate is the diagram functionality. So diagrams provide a visual representation of models, making it easier for users to understand and work with complex structures. This one is the diagram one. So here I have my diagram. The first thing I can do is that you see I can manage the zoom. I can select an element and make it fit to screen, or just go back to the background and say that I want to see everything which appears on my diagram. Another thing interesting is that you have a kind of contextual palette. The content of the palette depends on where you click, on which kind of element you select. So here on the processor, I have a kind of palette. If I click on another element, I will have another kind of palette. On the background, I can create, for example, data source. And the palette is not the same. I can create a composite processor. You see that when I click, the last tool used becomes the default one, which is really interesting. Then I can update the different values from the details view. So I rename my processor, my new processor. I can also manage to create some new elements, not from my diagram, but also directly from the Explorer. So I can create a new processor, for example, in my central unit. And by default, it has no name. So I can cite directly a name thanks to a direct edit tool from the diagram. Also, if I reset, for example, the name to Wi-Fi, you see that the icon change automatically according to the name. So this is a capability thanks to the conditional style available in Sirius. When I select an element also, I can change the different values of the properties from the details view. If I switch from unused, low, standard, high to over, you see that my processor comes to be red now. And what I can show also is that I can connect two elements. So I have defined some edge tools that help to connect two different elements. And another interesting thing is I can create another element. For example, I will create a processor and I will connect this processor to an engine, but in the end, okay, it creates it from the engine, but thinking to it, no, the processor 4 is not related to engine, but to the radar capture. So I can reconnect directly the processor to another one. I have also the capability to create kind of unsynchronized diagram. The first diagram, all the time I create an element, it appears automatically on the diagram. On this kind of unsynchronized diagram, I can choose which elements I want to see on the diagram. So here, for example, I want to see the GPU. So I will drop it directly from the Explorer to the container. You see that my GPU appears on my diagram. I can move elements. I can decide exactly what the layout would be. It means that I am defining it by hand. I can also decide that no, my layout is not so good, so I prefer that Sirius Web directly compute a new layout for me. So I can click on this arrange all button at the top. I can decide to change the size of the container. I can move elements inside the container. All those things are by default provided by Sirius. You see that there is some elements in the contextual palette that appears all the time for all the different elements. So you can decide for an asynchronized diagram to delete an element from the model or to just delete the element from the diagram. And here we will decide to just we want the element to stay on the diagram, but not being able to see it anymore. So we want to hide it. So I click on hide, so the engine disappears from the diagram. We have also the possibility to fade a little bit an element, so we still see it on the diagram, but is with a kind of gray over it, a kind of gray layer over it. And I have some tooling also to get all my elements back, so my faded one and my hidden one. So when I click on it, all the elements come back again. Okay. So what I showed you here is that we have contextual palette, we have CRUD capabilities, we have kind of magic connectors. You see that when I use the creation tool, I just click on the two elements, and by default, it decides which kind of connector it has to create. For me here, there is just one kind of connector available, so I don't need to select which kind of connector I want to use. We have also the capability to collapse elements and to expand them. You see the direct edit possibilities. We can define reconnect tools between edges. We have some zoom capabilities, fit to screen capabilities, and we are able also to edit the representation thanks to drag and drop. We can decide which kind of elements we want to see on the diagram. We're able to move the different elements to make a manual layout, or we can use assisted layout if you want. We can resize elements, we can arrange everything, and we can hide and fade some elements. Okay, so this is for the diagrams. Now we can define also with Sirius Web another type of representations. And another type of representation available is forms. So forms provide a structured and interactive way to view and edit model data. If we look at this, okay, so here we created a form with Sirius Web. This form allows me to we have a model that represents Earth, cities, and some people living in cities. And for one person, I want to create a form, and this form will contain the name of the people, the name of the place where these people lives in, where our address, the size of the place, and if there is enough place to take care of a dog or not. And we see all the dogs that are living in the house, and we see a small visualization to see if there is some free space or not in the place. So you see that I created this kind of forms with Sirius Web. I'm able to delete some people. Everything is up to date, all the different representation. I can manage the details on the right side. It will change also what you see in the form editor. So now, as I've said that one dog needs less space, there is more free space in the place. And we can create those kind of forms with Sirius Web. We can create those kind of diagrams. I will explain later how we can do this. And so the idea is that we can also create another kind of representation. So in addition to diagrams and forms, with Obeo Studio, which is based on Sirius Web, we are also allows the creation of tables. So tables provide another kind of way to represent your data. It provides a tabular representation of model data, offering a structured and organized way to view and manipulate information. So in conclusion, with Sirius Web, it offers the flexibility to integrate a wide range of representations according to your specific requirements. So the platform provides extensive capabilities to accommodate diverse representation types, allowing you to tailor the modeling environment to your needs. For instance, we have integrated Blockly into Sirius Web. Blockly is an open source library developed by Google that allows users to create visual programming editors. It provides a visual interface with a set of programming blocks that users can drag and drop to create programs. The blocks can be connected together to create sequences, loops, conditionals, and other programming constructs. We have also integrated D3.js into Sirius Web. So D3, for data-driven documents, is a powerful JavaScript library that enables the creation and manipulation of dynamic and interactive data visualization on the web. This allows for a more interactive and visually appealing representation of data. providing a powerful tool for analyzing and presenting complex information. Here we have a force-directed tree. We could also create a zoomable circle packing views. It's exactly the same model I represent on the left and on the right. So on the left, I have it thanks to a diagram, and on the right side, I see it thanks to a zoomable circle packing. It just goes through the different link between the different processors and sub-processors. I can also use a tree map, for example, to represent the relation between my processors. So we can integrate many different kind of representation. For example, we have also integrated a Google Maps one. So I will just show you this. Here you have Sirius Web, so you still have the 3 different panels, the left side with the global views, the editor in the center, and on the right, the details. The idea here is to create a DSL, which represents a map. So you have latitude and longitude, and if I set the latitude, for example, for a point, it will move the map on the good point, and I can change the zoom. It will change the zoom directly to update the maps. So you see that according to the model, the data in the model, I can represent the data thanks to many kind of representation, even a map. We have also integrated other kind of editor. Until now, I show you only more like graphical representations. We can also integrate textual one. So for the textual one, I could show you this one. So this representation is representing a CCML V2 model. So the CCML V2 was designed to be a textual language first. So here I'm creating a package which contains different kind of part definition, and a part which I'm creating a new part, which is representing the car of Alice, which is a car. And you see that it's automatically integrated in Sirius, as when I'm typing my text, it automatically creates the element in the Explorer. So all those is working synchronized. I can also add some documentation in my part and so on. So this is really a small example. Okay. Oh. Just a second. Okay, so after integrating graphical diagrams, graphical visualization like diagrams, some with forms, some textual one, I will show you what looks like, what the right side of the workspace is for. So now I will detail the current selection views, which are on the right side of the project editor. The right panel works like the one on the left. So I mean, you can select between the different icons which view you want to see. The first one, which is the one open by default, is the details view. We already use it sometimes here in the demonstration. It presents the properties of the current selected element. Then there is a second view, which is the representations view, which lists all the existing representations associated to the current selected element. And the last one is a related element view, which shows you the currently selected element in context. So it shows which elements refers to the selection. So in the incoming category, which elements the selection itself refers to in the outgoing category, and where in the model hierarchy the selection is located. This is the current category, which shows the elements parent and children. So, for example, I can show you the details representation in live. if I select an element on my diagram, you see that I have all my details, and the details view depend on the selection on the diagram or on the Explorer. I can manage the different properties of my element. If I update the capacity in the details view, it's changed the size of the element in my graphical representation. I can also select another kind of element, and I will not see the same properties because it depends on the type of the element. I do not have the same properties. And one interesting thing also is that I can switch to an element which has some representation defined on it. And then I can see the details of this element. And when I click on the representation view, I can see all the representations that are available and defined on this element. So on my robot, I have defined 3 different kinds of representation. The topography one, which is this one, and another one, which is with an auto layout activated, and the last one I presented you just earlier, which is an synchronized one. And when I click on this element, on this link, I can directly go to my other representation. So this is the navigation. Okay, I can show you also the related elements view. So here, when I select an element, I have another kind of view, which is a related element one. This view, the purpose of this view is really to ease the navigation between elements by going through the different edges of the different connections between different elements. So I can navigate going from incoming elements to outgoing one and going to the hierarchy of my element like this. So Sirius Web provides also the possibility to collaborate. You can share projects. It's just sharing a link because it's just a web application. And you can also decide to export, for example, a diagram as an SVG. It would be just available thanks to a small menu. You can export your representation and open it, and it would be a SVG representation. You want also with modeling tools, you expect live collaboration. So it is also possible to collaborate in live with Sirius Web. When a representation or a model is modified, it is automatically updated thanks to a subscription system. As I show you, the different representation in the different views are synchronized all the time, and it would be the same if you have 2 people working at the same time. If I show you this, for example, on the left side, I have John Doe, which is connected and will work on a diagram. He shares a link of this diagram to his friend Alice. So Alice can connect on the Obeo Cloud platform. So she needs to put her username and her password. She can log in. And now she's working on the same server as John, but she does not see the same project because she does not have the same rights than John had. So the first thing is that John needs to share the project with Alice. So for that, he goes to the project settings and he had Alice as a contributor in order that Alice can contribute also to the diagrams. Now Alice is a contributor of the project, and okay, John will go back to see his diagram, and now Alice can see the project, open it, and she can open exactly the same diagram as John, and she will see exactly the same thing. You see that on the right side and the left side, you have the kind of avatar of Alice and John. You see who is working on the same time as you. So here, Alice knows that John Doe is working on the same elements than her. And John Doe sees that Alice is working on the conception property. If Alice changes it, it updates the value on both sides for John and for Alice. and it changed also the value for on the diagram. For example, if she's changed the usage of a processor, it will be changed for everyone at the same time. If we select the processor too and say that it's over, you see that it came red at the same time on both sides. Okay. Another thing which is interesting is that you have different kind of levels to share a project. You can declare that a project could be public or could be private. So here, for example, John will have set the visibility to public, so he could decide to put it to private. And if a project is declared to be public, everyone would be able to see this project and to see this project in a read-only mode. Okay. So with Obeo Studio, you can collaborate simultaneously with others. Thanks to its user management features, you have control over who can connect to the platform, utilizing SSO authentication for secure access. You can also manage teams and define role-based access control, ensuring appropriate permissions for each user. Additionally, with public and private projects, you can control who can access your project, and the real-time indicators provide visibility into who is working on what within the diagram, fostering collaboration and coordination among team members. So now let's explore what Sirius Web offers from the perspective of studio makers. In Sirius Web, we cater two types of personas, developers and studio makers. So let's explore what each persona entails and how Sirius Web addresses their needs. The studio makers first are domain experts, responsible for designing and creating modeling languages and environment using Sirius Web, so using the low-code platform. They focus on defining the concepts and behavior of the modeling languages. Sirius Web provides several features to support studio makers, including a domain modeler, which can be used to create a new domain containing entities which can be abstract. Each entities provide attributes and relations which permit to connect entities together. So from Sirius Web, you define your domain and your editors, and you get a tailor-made graphical editors. So what it looks like in live, I will create a new project. This new project will create a new kind of domain, which is something else, not a processor domain, not a SysML-v2 domain. It is another one. It's the one I just showed you before. I want to represent Earth, and on the Earth, I want to represent the different cities. A city will have a name, and the Earth contains different cities. So I can create a containment relation between the Earth and city. I can update the name of my relation to be cities. Now, in the city, I want to create another kind of entity which will represent the person. A person has a first name, and she has also another attribute which would be his last name. And I can also decide to add some other kind of attribute, which are not automatically strings. It could be Boolean also. And I can create a relation between the cities and persons. So I go like that for all my domain, and I created this kind of domain with the Earth, which contains cities. A cities contains places. A place has a name, a size, a garden, and an address. Persons are living in cities, and a person takes care of a dog, which lives also in a city. And there is two kinds of dogs, Dalmatians and Corgi. So here I just created a domain in Sirius Web, and what is magic is that I can directly use it. So I just create another kind of project saying that I'm using the domain I just defined, and I'm able to create cities, I'm able to create the Earth, and I'm able to create cities like London. I can create directly person in the city. I created Roger. I can create a place. which would be the region Spark House. I can set the attributes from the details view. I can say that this place has a garden. I can put the address of this place, which would be 42 Regents Park Avenue. And directly, without having to create any editors, Sirius Web provides me everything I need to update, create elements in my domain, create an instance of my domain. So here I created, for example, a dog, which would be Pongo, and Pongo lives with Roger, so I just did this. So I will go back to my domain now to create another kind of things. Now I don't want anymore to update my domain thanks to the different editors, but I want a specific diagram editor, which I could do the same but graphically. So I created a new diagram description, and this diagram will be available on the Earth element. I would say that this diagram will represent the different cities. And on my diagram, I want to represent the different cities thanks to a node. And so to do that, I just say that my node will be a city node, and I will map this graphical concept to the city concept defined in my domain. So when I am on the Earth, how I could find all the cities, for that I am just using the cities relation. And I want to show as label of my node the name of the city. If I go back to my example, now I'm able on the Earth to create a new kind of representation, which would be a cities diagram. And you see that automatically I see London because I created London by hand just before. And now I can create directly from the diagram a new kind of city, which would be Paris. So I have tools available. I didn't need to create anything. All those things are free thanks to Sirius Web. I decided to change a little bit the styles, the default style which exists. So instead of using the blue color, the default blue color, I decided to use another color for the label, another color for the border. I want the background of the node to be white. I will update the border to get some more radius. And I will change also the font to be much bigger and to be bold and underline. Now if I go back, I see that the cities diagram is changing. I switch from the blue color to the purple one. And so you see that I can iterate like that as a studio maker on my studio, creating exactly the diagram I want, the representation I want, and deciding what I want to put on it. So on this diagram, that's great. I can not create right now sub-elements, but I would like to create some person inside the city directly from my diagram. So I will need to specify to Sirius Web that I want to represent sub-node in my cities. So I want to represent the person inside the city. So I map this graphical element to the person element in my domain. If we go back to the domain, you see that I have the persons relation, which helps me to find all the persons living in a city. And this time for the label for a person, I want to see the first name of the person and her last name as a label of the node. And I want also to be able to create a more complex tool in order that when I directly edit the name, the first name and the last name of my person in my diagram, I want a specific behavior, so I will specify this specific behavior thanks to Sirius Web. I will create a new edit label tool, and I said that when this tool is executed, I will set the value of the first name feature to, I will parse my argument, and I will just tokenize it until the space and get the first part for the first name and the last part of the string for the last name. So I put that when we will execute this tool, we will set as first name everything which is before the space, and everything which is after the space would become the last name. So I can create a new person. By default, she has a new person name. And now I have a direct edit tool which exists. And when I set Anita Radcliffe, you see that automatically the first name is set to Anita and the last name to Radcliffe. So this is all what you can do without writing any kind of code. You don't need anything to install. You have no need for SDK. There is no packaging thing. There is no deployment complexity using the low-code platform. You can, as a studio maker, create your own domain, create your own editors, and directly use it and make the user use it also. The second role we focus on is the developer. So developers are the technical experts responsible for building and maintaining the underlying infrastructure and functionality of a Sirius Web-based application. They focus on the implementation, integration, and extensibility aspects of the platform. So Sirius Web provides several features to support developers, including API to contribute domains and representations programmatically, extensions to create specific integration, UI customization, custom operations contribution. So we will discuss this in detail in an upcoming webinar, which will focus on the developers' features. I will just give an overview here of the architecture of Sirius Web. So if I come back to the high-level architecture point of view of Sirius Web, you see that the Sirius Web project provides, first, a standard application to create a ready-to-use web application to create and deploy your dedicated editors. Second, the Sirius Web project offers the Sirius components. These components are the building blocks used by the Sirius Web standard application, but they are built to be reused by any applications. All the different views you see are based on components, and you can reuse all those different views, all those different editors directly in your own application. And this is the idea. The idea for you is to use the Sirius components from Sirius Web to integrate in your own application. You can integrate your diagrams in a wiki, a website, or cloud IDs like Thea or VS Code, and they will be automatically updated when the model evolves. This is the power of the modeling tools. So in this way, we can use Sirius Web to enhance, for example, cloud IDs with graphical editors. Sirius Web follows a modular monolithic architecture that provides benefits for developers in terms of simplicity, ease of deployment, and integration of modular components to create an integrated product. So let's explore its key components. So from the backend and front-end point of view, we provide reusable open source components. Sirius Web provides a set of reusable open source components for both the backend and front-end development. These components are designed to be modular, allowing developers to easily understand and work with them. They provide common functionalities and features that can be leveraged across different projects or applications built on Sirius Web. Then we provide also another project, which is the EMF JSON. So EMF JSON is an open source component integrated into Sirius Web. It is responsible for serializing the Eclipse modeling framework models, the EMF models we use, to the JSON format, the one I showed you at the beginning. So this component enables seamless interoperability between EMF-based models and other systems or other tools that use JSON as data exchange format. And finally, with the Obeo Studio, Obeo provides the OCP components. So in addition to the open source components, Obeo Studio also includes proprietary backend and front-end components developed by Obeo. And these components provide additional functionalities and features that are not available in the open source ecosystem, like the SSO integration, live collaboration feature, web capability, and they are designed to be reusable and contribute to the overall richness and extensibility of the Sirius Web platform. So thanks to this architecture, we're able to integrate the diagramming component in any web application, in cloud IDs like VS Code, or in Thea. So the modern architecture of Sirius Web allows the toolsmiths to contribute extensions and reuse the Sirius Web components. As we see, it can contribute specific editors, but also specific layouts, dedicated backend services, webhooks, and it can integrate it in other applications. So for instance, webhooks allow you to build or set up integrations which subscribe to certain events on the Sirius Web server. So when one of those events is triggered, we'll send an HTTP post payload to the webhooks configured URL. And here, for example, we just register a webhook which automatically saves semantic models updates to a GitHub repository. So under the hood, how does it work? It is pretty simple. We wrote a small node server. We register a new webhook on the OCP server, and this webhook listens for the semantic changes. When a semantic event occurs, the model is pushed to a Git repository. The Sirius Web backend relies on really classical framework and cloud libraries. So we rely on Spring Boot, Reactor, GraphQL Java, and more classical modeling things like EMF, Eclipse Sirius, and AQL, the XLL query language for navigation in the model. So why GraphQL? GraphQL allows for precise queries from an endpoint for which the manipulable concepts and how these concepts are connected have been defined. This results in fewer requests needed to obtain a result. It is also easy to propose a generic API. And furthermore, GraphQL is network and protocol independent, meaning that it can be used with WebSocket and so with subscription with Reactor. So here is an example of GraphQL request offered by Sirius Web. So for example, you can retrieve easily all the representation of a project. And one last point about our backend and our architecture is that the granularity of the data stored in the database is at the document and representation level. And it is therefore logical to find a relational database in the Sirius Web architecture with tables such as project, user, representation, document, team, and so on. And we provide a default implementation, which is based on PostgreSQL. So if I recap, for the toolsmith, Sirius Web brings major improvements to the exploitation and maintenance of modeling environments. With its web-based platform, there are no more desktop deployments, ensuring everyone operates on the same version. Developers benefit from a modern technical stack, leading to better performance and scalability. And the web-based approach also enables seamless collaboration. So overall, Sirius Web simplifies maintenance and provides a unified, up-to-date platform for the users. So in the upcoming months, both Sirius Web and Obeo Studio will continue to evolve. However, it's important to note that our roadmap depends on your interests and needs. So we are open to contributions from the community. It's an open source project and also open to sponsorship opportunities. So your input and involvement are really valuable to us as we strive to enhance and expand the Sirius Web project. So thank you. I'm here to help. If you have any question about Sirius Web, Obeo Studio, or any related topics, feel free to ask. I'll see if there is a question or not. Okay, so I have one question. Is it possible to visually drill down from a summary to a detailed diagram? So I'm not sure to understand the question, but yes, in the end, you are able to create different kind of representation. You can create a high-level representation and you be able to create tools that will help you to navigate through different layer of your application. So for example, you can create a first diagram, which would be a high-level one, and then you'll be able to create tooling, which navigate to some other kind of representation, which will go deeper in your application. One other thing we have in mind, and we are trying to experiment right now, is a kind of semantic zoom. So when you are on the same diagram, you are at a certain level, high-level one, and when you will zoom, you see more and more elements in the diagram. So this is what we have in mind. It's still experimental, not yet available, but we are going this way. Okay, we have another question. Okay, can I import a project created with Obeo Designer into Sirius Web? Yes and not, it depends. We're still using EMF models. So you can, if you have an EMF model, you can import it in the Sirius Web. It would be possible. What's interesting is that we also help you to go from if you have defined your view from Obeo's designer and Sirius Desktop first, and you have ODesign files, we help you to go to Sirius Web. You can try your ODesign file. We have a kind of compatibility layer which helps you to use your ODesign to see what it would look like in Sirius Web. And what's important for us is that our customers are able to go from their classical Sirius Desktop product to Sirius Web, so we will help them to go through this path. We work on this path to ease it, to provide an easy way to go from Sirius Web from Sirius Desktop to Sirius Web. The first one is this compatible layer in order that you can try the design. And for the future, we have in mind to make some more, maybe, the idea is not to keep your ODesign at the same time that you have the same application in Sirius Web. The idea is really to help you to go from one to the other. So we will improve some more tooling to help for that in the future. Okay, I have another question now. So how can I create different view from a specific viewpoint diagram? So this is really what Sirius Web is for. With Sirius Web, you can create for one element any kind of views you want on this element. It could be a first kind of diagram, another kind of diagram, or it could be forms or tables and so on. So the idea is really that there is no relation between the data and how you present it to the end user. It's you, the studio maker, who decide how you will, which kind of representation you will do for your end user and what it would look like. So yes, definitely you can create different view, different forms, if you want forms, different diagrams for different elements. Okay, another question. Is there a standard language protocol to the backend? Yes, as I said, we are using GraphQL and WebSocket. So this is what we are using for the protocol. We did not create a new protocol. We decided to use something which is highly used for web application. So if you look at the code, you see that everything is based on GraphQL. Another question. So it is possible to work concurrently on the same model? Yes. Is it possible for two people to work asynchronously, that is on two different branches of the model, and then try to merge later? If not, is this something you envisage possible in the future? Yes. Today, you can work asynchronously on the same version of the model. We know that this is not exactly what, this is one of the use cases. Some other use case would be that you need to work on some branches. So we have this in mind. We want to be able to manage the history of your model and to be able to manage also some future branches you will have. This is not yet on our roadmap. And so if this is really important for you, you can help us to develop this maybe in the open. We have this in mind, but right now we are still working on more basic things in the framework, but this is definitely coming in the future. Okay, some other question. Currently, Sirius Web is using, yes, MUI V4. Is there a plan to go to V5 or V6? We're trying to go to stay with the really the to keep our dependency on the most latest version. I know for that we are not yet on the latest version, but yes, in the future we want to plan to go to V4, V5 or V6 or V. I don't know how much it would be when we will do this work, but yes, definitely we will change that. Some other question: are the features you presented today available as open source, or are some features only available under another license agreement? If you go back to my slides, you'll see that on the right corner, there is something which says Sirius Web or OCP or Obeo Studio. Everything which is purple with Sirius Web is open source. Everything which is in green with the Obeo Studio or OCP is proprietary of Obeo, and it's available as proprietary features. So the proprietary features I show you is live collaboration with the avatars. You'll be able to live collaborate in Sirius Web, but there is no authentication in Sirius Web. So authentication, avatars, collaboration are features that are in the Obeo Studio and not in the open. Okay, another one. In the long term, are you planning to still maintain Sirius Desktop, or is the vision to migrate to Sirius Web? Definitely, we will maintain both. We maintain Sirius Desktop for the next 10 years, maybe or more. It depends on our customer, but our customers are still working with Sirius Desktop and have a really important project on it. So we will maintain it in the future. And the idea is people that don't want anymore to have desktop application will maybe move to the web, so they will use Sirius Web, but people that want desktop application will stay on Sirius Desktop. So both will live in the future. And a last question, because we are going late. So how can I put in communication different representation? I'm not sure to understand the question. In fact, the different representation are already communicating, because in the middle you have the semantic model. So the representation are working on the semantic model. So I'm not sure how you want communication. If you can precise your question maybe later by email, I would be happy to answer it.